Hello, Catherine. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Hi, Alyssa. Thanks for inviting me.
Yes. So, Catherine, you are a chronic pain coach and also an author and a chronic pain survivor. You have a book. We'll talk about that later on. And I discovered you on Instagram and I just fell in love with all of the content that you put out because it's so uplifting, it's so powerful, and you have an amazing story. And so I'm just really excited to dive in to your story and your healing journey and everything that you've been through. And it was one specific post that really caught my eye in kind of the idea for the episode today was the post about not trusting your thoughts and these automatic negative thoughts. I'm looking at my notes here. You call them ants. And it's such a real thing with chronic pain survivors because we get so in our head and we feel defeated and devastated. And these thoughts are so powerful. And when you're working with clients and also in your own journey, what is it about the reframe that really makes the change? Because that's what you talked about in your post. And I thought we should just dive right into that because that's what we want to hear is how can we make a significant change in this process of healing, especially with our minds, because it's so important.
Wow, that's a loaded first question.
Yeah, we could take it
So
step by step.
okay. So reframe is so powerful because we have our own thoughts. We have our own perspective about our reality, about what we're dealing with. And we have stories around that we have created to keep us where we are, to help us to manage where we are, and to keep us feeling as though we're in control of where we are.
Absolutely.
And sometimes all of those are not really where we need to be, but we feel safe
Yeah.
and we feel comfortable. And we want everyone around us to just say, it's okay for you to be here. So the reframe is the action. The reframe is after we have really done the work. And so I have a framework called the AARC framework. And
Hmm.
the AARC takes you from one place to the other, right? It's like a bridge. And the AARC begins at one spot and it ends at another, and they're not the same place. And in order to get to the reframe spot, we need to acknowledge where we are and acknowledge our own doing, our what we're doing to keep us where we are. Because for the longest time in my story, I felt as though it was up to everyone else to get me better. I kept looking outside of myself at the doctors and the therapists and the medications and, 18 pills a day and still having
Yeah.
no quality of life. And it wasn't until I realized and acknowledged that I had a part in it too, that was keeping me where I was. I just got off a call with an amazing client who has been confined to her couch for a number of years, just like I was. My doctor told me that's where you're going to be the rest of your life. Like, go home, quit bugging me, stop coming to me. I'm not sending you to any more therapists or doctors. This is it. And for years, I listened to him and just laid on that couch. I didn't believe I could do the things. I didn't have any belief in my own ability. I
Yeah.
just was looking outside of me for everyone else to change my surroundings, to change my life, to change how my body was feeling. And it wasn't until I turned that mirror towards myself.
Mhm.
It
That's
was really
beautiful.
scary.
It is
And
scary.
I didn't want to do it because it meant that I had to acknowledge a whole bunch of stuff about myself
Absolutely. Because
and
it's a
how.
deep dive into the self, into the inner healing, all these things that impact the emotional reaction that you have. And I really, that biggest takeaway from what you just said too was learning how to trust yourself. Because for so long, we're giving trust to the outside forces, the doctors, the therapists, whatever it is. And then what about me? What about you? What about the sufferer, right? And how do you turn that from suffering to thriving?
Yeah.
And I would love to just talk about your story because I know a little bit about the accident, but I don't know everything. I wanted to hear it from you personally. So if you wouldn't mind, I would love to hear how you overcame, because that's your business and your coaching is called Overcome Chronic Pain because it's real and you can do it. So I would just love to hear about your story.
Well, my story really began when I was 10, and I wanted to be a sports doctor. I was a competitive figure skater, and I had an ankle issue. It was just a lot of pain, and nobody could figure it out, and no one would believe me, and no one would listen to me. I'm just this little 8, 9, 10-year-old kid complaining. And finally, I met a sports doctor called Dr. Johnson. And from that day forward, I wanted to be like him. I wanted to help people who wanted to get better. And that's the thing. There are people who want to get better, and then there are people who are happy where they are. So I wanted to help people who wanted to get better because I didn't want to have this ankle pain every time I jumped or every time I took off on a jump or landed. Um, and so I had to wait until I was in grade 12 to have ankle surgery to have the problem fixed. I needed to be grown. But I went through school, got my kinesiology degree, and was accepted into the New Jersey School of Sports Medicine. And in my final exams, I found out I was pregnant with my first child. And so my dream of becoming a sports doctor ended in a split moment.
Yep.
And I became a school teacher, ended up having 4 children, became a school teacher so that I could spend all of my days and nights and summers with my children.
Yeah.
Fast forward to 2007, one fall night, we were renovating, we were putting a bathroom in our basement, and we had a box that I needed to open to look at the vanity that had just come in. Ran upstairs, grabbed a knife, and came to the top of the stairs, and I looked back at my 2 of my children who were in the living room and gave them like that big mom smile. And I took a step back to go towards the stairs, but I was already at that top step. And so I
Yeah.
tumbled backwards
My
down the
gosh.
flight of stairs, and I ended up putting my head and my arm through the wall. So my arm shattered, and I was knocked out for 45 minutes, and I slit my eyelid with the knife.
Oh my goodness.
It was over.
Just instant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 1 minute, I know I had a steak on the counter and a bottle in a decanter of wine, ready to have dinner, and my life ended. Yeah, and
Yeah.
nothing today is anything like it was. And so, therapy after therapy, walking with a walker, dark glasses on, earplugs in my ears, hat on, only being able to sit at a 45-degree angle, 4 children in competitive sports, having to find drives for everybody, having to hire people to do my laundry, having to hire people to clean, cook, do homework with my kids. Like I couldn't read, write, drive. My life was over.
Yeah.
And doctors were
Wow.
telling me this is the way you were going to be the rest of your life. And I believed him. I took his prescription.
Yeah. Just devastating.
Yeah. And so what do you do? What do you do when you feel like all hope is gone? You know, you're lying on the couch day in and day out, in bed, day in and day out. The only thing that's in your calendar are doctor's appointments.
Yeah. So hard.
And then they're telling you you can't do anything about it. And so, we have to mourn the life that we lose due to our
That's
chronic.
right.
But you wake up every morning and you are breathing. There's a reason you're here. And I truly believe that each and every one of us, regardless of what has happened and how many lemons, and I haven't explained what the lemons are, but life gives us lemons,
Yep. The famous saying.
right?
Right.
But I don't want to make lemonade.
How
Like
can you? It's
that's like a
different.
slap in the face.
Absolutely.
I don't want to make lemonade.
No,
Like I lost my life.
you
I
did.
lost my teaching career. I lost my ability to be and play with my children. I lost my marriage. I lost all my friendships. I lost, like, you name the area of a life, and I lost that. And I understand with all of my clients and everybody that I speak to online, I understand what that feels like to my
Oh, yeah.
core
Oh, yeah. Can't
because
even
my life
imagine.
does not look like anything it did before. And for
Yeah.
the longest time lying on the couch, I kept saying, I just want my life back.
Oh, yeah.
I have
Yeah.
goosebumps even thinking about it.
I know. Gosh.
So we have to mourn that. It's like the loss of a person in our
Mm-hmm.
life. But do we sit there and mourn the rest of our life? Do we
No,
sit there and just stew and stew and stew about all the things that we've lost?
we
We're
can't.
here, we're breathing, right? Like we have a purpose. God has put us on this earth for a reason. And it's interesting now, after all of what I've done, that ARC framework that I've created, AARC, acknowledge, accountability, reframe, and choice. This is how we get our life back.
I love it. It's amazing. So going from where you were back in 2007, you said was the accident. How long did it take for you to recognize I can't live like this anymore? Like the old me is basically dead. Who do I want to be? How did you, and I know this is another loaded question, but, or maybe this is a better question. What was it that was the spark of I can't be like this anymore? I mean, what was it that gave you that motivation? Because it's a big deal to all of a sudden flip a switch. I mean, hearing your story and just looking at you, I'm like, I would have never even a million years thought, oh, she fell down a flight of stairs and was confined to her couch and all these things. I mean, it's just remarkable. So tell me what that flip was for you.
So I call it my catalyst moment.
I love it. I love it. You already have a name. See, that's much better than flip. I love it.
It's in my book, The Catalyst
Okay.
Moment. I've got
Catalyst
to
moment.
find
What
it.
page? I want to write down the page so that the listeners can hear.
Uh, I've got to find it. Oh, it's chapter 3, page 7.
Okay. Awesome. And I'll
So,
put that in the show notes too.
okay, so my catalyst moment, I'm lying on the couch, which was where I always was.
Yep.
My kids were playing in the backyard and my kids were always outside. And, they were the kind of kids that would rollerblade. We had a circular area in our house and they would rollerblade around and around inside the house. I
So
have,
loud.
I have one child with a scar right here because he hit the corner one
Oh.
time. But, they were active. They weren't kids that just sat and read books. They were
They
like
played.
played, climbed trees. They did everything. And so I always was with them. Like I was mom of the year every year until I
Hmm.
had this accident. And my
Yeah.
kids even say I'm a completely different mom now, which
Yeah.
is sad to say. And that is something that we all had to mourn. Like it's not just us that has to mourn.
It's the people around us,
Yeah. Like there's
our
such a ripple
family.
effect when something happens, when we get a diagnosis, or all of a sudden, our body is in flare of fibromyalgia and we don't
Hmm.
know where it came from, or, whatever happens, the concepts are the same. And so they're out there playing and they're laughing, and I just want to be out there with them, and I cannot get myself off the couch. And I'm like, there's got to be something more. This is not the reason why I'm here on this earth, is to just lay on this couch and watch life pass me by.
Yeah.
And so I thought to myself, what can I do? Because I kept focusing on all of the things that I couldn't do. And so when life gives us lemons, my saying is choose the lime. It's the name of my book.
I
Gives
love
you
it.
lemons, choose the lime.
Choose the
Because
lime.
I had to start seeing the things that I was capable of doing in that moment. And instead of looking at all the things that I couldn't do, because when I was focusing on the couldn't do's and the ants, automatic negative thoughts, they were holding me down and where I was. It was like a weight on me, you
Definitely.
know? So as I started to transition my thought of what I can do, the first thing I did was I started to knit little tiny squares. I talked about that in my newsletter last week. Like, because I didn't need to, I wasn't overstimulating. I didn't need a lot of my body. I could do a few stitches, but it started to give me something to think about other than my pain and other than my symptoms and other than the life that I had lost. It started to give me other things to talk about with other people. So,
Yeah.
because the dreadful question, how are you? We don't want to answer that question because they're going to get a laundry list of symptoms and things that are wrong and woe is me. But all of a sudden I was like, I'm really excited. I'm making these squares. Do you want one? I'll make you one. Like it just gave me something else to talk about around the Thanksgiving dinner table.
I love it.
And so, those are small and they seem minor. I just got off a call with a client who's like, I just walked for 45 seconds. It's a celebration,
It
and
is.
those are the things that we get to celebrate. They may not be celebration worthy to other people, but that is why putting ourselves in a community where other people know what we're going through, so we don't feel so isolated, we don't feel so weird or different, but people will celebrate you and whatever your wins are when you start focusing on those limes, those little glimmers, those little cracks where you can find something else besides your pain to focus on.
Yeah, that's great. That's truly inspirational and it's amazing. I love the idea of the lime because the lime is different than the lemon. And the lemon, I think, if I'm understanding correctly too, kind of represents the old self, your old life, and what you had. And as you mourn yourself, and then you decide, okay, what is it that I can do now? And what is it that I can actually do that's maybe just a small thing? Walking for 45 seconds might not be a big deal to someone else, but to someone who's suffering with chronic pain or chronic illness, that's a huge deal. So I love that. I love that idea of embracing the victory and also being around people who can understand and empathize because it's a big thing. So, with your family and your children, did you see as you had this catalyst moment and moved on and started to say, okay, I'm going to pick me now and what I'm doing? Did you see a difference with your children as well and the people around you and also them celebrating you instead of maybe, grieving? Like now it's like, oh, they're celebrating you. They're excited about you and what you can do. And everyone's a little bit happier and just excited. Does that make sense?
It does. It's interesting. What's coming to my mind right away is there was resistance in them as well
Hmm.
because they wanted their old mom back. They
Yeah.
wanted, the mom who made their Halloween costumes. They wanted the mom who put on the best birthday parties in the neighborhood. They wanted the mom who, but that mom didn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And so everybody had to mourn. And I want to really acknowledge that whatever is happening with us is happening to everybody else as well. And sometimes we just think that it's affecting us and it's not. And so there was a transition period. And there was a transition period for me as well because I wanted to just get up and do all of those things again. But my body was like, no, you can't. And so that's where that reframe is. It's looking at things in a realistic manner
Yeah.
and helping other people to see this is the reality now. And, you know, having to apologize for not being the same person, that's a really tough thing.
Yeah.
And have the brave steps to say, okay, who do I want to be and who can I be? And so creating the life that's exciting, I have a reason to put my feet on the floor in the morning every day. And those reasons are different than before my accident. But I'll tell you, that 10-year-old little girl who wanted to be like Dr. Johnson is waking up every single morning and sitting in this office chair and working with people who want to get better. And
Yeah.
so my path to get to where I wanted to be, you know, but if you look at any dream that you ever had in your life, does it look exactly like that?
No.
And so life gives us lemons. It's not, lemons aren't just chronic pain.
Oh, yeah.
Lemons can be anything, right? It does. And so these ARC framework, the concepts help me get through anything. A flight that's been delayed or my bags that were lost when I went to Vancouver for my book launch. I didn't have my outfit,
Oh, no.
right?
For your book launch, too, of
Yeah.
all times.
So I'm wearing jeans and a t-shirt to my book launch, but I had clothes to wear.
There you go.
But um, this framework, these concepts, these ability to look at what I do have instead of what I've lost, and taking me to those choices, the power of the choices that I have, and the ability to see what else is possible has brought me to this place where now I get to help thousands of people.
Amazing. Amazing. I love it. So, can you tell me again what the ARC stands for?
Sure. So ARC, AARC, and
Okay.
it's knowledge. Okay. So where are you right now?
Yeah.
What are those stories that are keeping you where you are right now and those beliefs, right? Have you brought that mirror up? That's where accountability shows,
Hmm.
right? Accountability, letting go of the old self and saying, okay, here I am, curious, mindset, small actions. Because as you take that next step of small action, the next step is going to show up. And then your path is going to show up. And so, did I, on that day of my catalyst moment, think I'm going to help people with chronic pain? I'm going to coach them to overcome chronic pain?
Probably
No,
not.
all like you wouldn't believe what I have done in the last 9 years.
Hmm.
I started out volunteering,
Yeah.
right? And then it just blossomed into this amazing thing. And it's because I kept saying yes to my life, kept saying yes, shifting that
Hmm.
reframe, right? So acknowledge accountability, reframe, taking those brave steps, neuroplasticity, realizing that our brain can change and our stories can change and the way we see our stories can change. So that story is now just a page in a book and not the reality I live today. Do I have symptoms still? Absolutely. But I
Yeah.
have learned how to partner with my body so
Yes.
I can manage,
Beautiful.
right? And so that's where that reframe comes in. And then the choices. So C is choice.
It's great. Thank you so much. I love that. And so you have your book, When Life Gives You Lemons, Choose the Lime. And then tell me what's the bottom, Embracing Life After Diagnosis. I love
Yeah.
it. And where is it available? Where can we buy your book?
So you can get it on Amazon. You
Okay.
can look up Catherine Courtice and it'll show up. And I'm actually #1 right now
Yay.
in physical illness category. I'm #1. And so that's really exciting. But it's a great book. So the book itself, so here's morning.
Hmm.
Um, every chapter is super short. So look how short that is. So people with chronic pain, we've got that brain fog showing up all the
Oh, I
time.
know.
It's
Yeah.
really hard to read. You've read a couple chapters and you're like, I don't even remember what I read, but they're so small and short, and you can just flip to the one that you want. It's a really great resource that, can sit on your table and you can say, oh, what did Catherine say about that? And go to that chapter and just get a little bit of that boost, or it gives you just that little bit of a shift in your perspective where you can keep on that arc because you bounce. You're
Oh,
not
yeah.
just one to the other, right? And any situation that shows up, you bounce, you go, but you know that there's always movement and there's always possibility.
I love it. Well, it has been a pleasure to speak with you today and to hear about your story and everything that you have created and the way that you have overcome this incredible, journey and that now you can work with your body and that you love your body and you love yourself and trust yourself. So, Catherine, thank you. I really appreciate it. I will link your book in the show notes and your Instagram, and I hope that listeners will reach out to you because you're just an amazing person. So, thank you so much, Catherine.
Thank you, Alyssa. It's been a pleasure. So much fun.
Okay, you have a great day. Thank you. Bye.